I'm Jessie Heredia, and you're listening to Mom Empowered, where I help moms ditch their anger, break free from anxiety, and create the life they've always wanted. This show is for the mom who's ready to become more free and empowered. Hello, all of you amazing mamas. Today I am sharing with you a recording from a 3-day video training I just released called 3 Steps to Empowerment for the Angry Mom. I created this training for the mom who feels like she's a bit of an angry mom or angry wife and wants to break free of that. And in this training, I cover 3 simple steps. Now, when I say simple, I don't mean that they're always easy, because they do require effort, they do require commitment, but I like to call these steps simple because they are things that you can start doing today to step into more of the confidence and the empowerment that I believe transforms lives and enables us to walk in freedom and joy. So to sign up for this video training in full so you can watch all 3 days, you can visit my website, jessieheredia.com/3 steps freebie. I'll put the link in the show notes. And from there, you'll just enter your email, and then you'll receive day 1 right away in your inbox, and then day 2, the day after, and so on. And in these videos, I cover a bit of my own journey of walking through anxiety and control issues and postpartum rage, but I also share strategies and examples based on the work that I do with my clients in my Mom Empowered coaching programs. I really am so excited to share these trainings with you. I do believe it will have a large impact on the women who watch it and who actually implement the 3 steps. And today, like I mentioned, you are in for a treat because I am sharing one of those steps with you. What you are about to listen to is part of a recording from this training, and it's on the topic of confident communication, which I just believe is so essential in our relationships if we're going to be able to handle stress and overwhelm and tension in a calm, healthy way versus flying off the handle or lashing out or getting angry. If you have been a long-time listener of the show, this episode might actually sound familiar to you because it's reminiscent of an episode I did back in September called The Practice That Radically Changed My Marriage. This is that practice. This is that practice that I talked about back then, communicating with confidence. And I'm breaking it down for you so that you can start to do this in your own life, maybe even starting today. But real quick before we jump in, I do want to remind you about my Mom Empowered coaching programs. My 6-month Mom Empowered coaching experience is currently full and will not open back up until 2021, but my 12-week signature Mom Empowered program is still open for enrollment, and it will remain open until it either fills up or until the end of August. So if you have been considering working with me, or if you are brand new, maybe have never even heard of Mom Empowered or the empowerment coaching that I offer to moms, I do want to invite you to check out my website for more information at jessieheredia.com/coaching. And from there, you can also apply for a free empowerment call with me. This program is for the mom who is ready to gain the emotional wellness she needs to confidently create more of the life she's always wanted. Whether you are a mom who wants to break free from anxiety, anger, or overwhelm, or if you're an entrepreneur or a woman with big goals and big dreams who wants to move past her fears and lack of motivation or emotional hang-ups, or even if you're a wife looking to just cultivate a stronger marriage and a more joy-filled home that you can feel inspired by and proud of, this program is for you. It's designed to empower you, challenge you, and support you in all aspects of your life. Speaking of support, I do real quick just want to thank all of my listeners for how much love you guys have shown me this past month as I fully rebranded into Mom Empowered and announced this new evolution for the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode or have enjoyed listening to the show, it would mean so much to me if you would share a screenshot to your Instagram stories and tag me at Jessie Heredia, or if you would leave a rating and review in iTunes. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into today's training. Like I said today, we are focusing on the 3rd step to overcoming your anger. It's certainly not the last step, but obviously important and powerful enough for me to include in this training. And this step is communicating with confidence. This can be communicating with confidence with your partner, communicating with confidence with your toddler, or even communicating with confidence with your parents, your friends, your coworkers. Empowered moms communicate with confidence. They state what they want in a way that is tactful and wise and coming from a place of security rather than a place of insecurity. For this video, I'm going to first talk through what this looks like in a marriage context. And then I'm going to talk about what this looks like from a discipline context with your kids, because I believe that these are most likely the two relationships where your anger is most frequently coming to the surface. And I want to help you target it there specifically. So let's start with marriage. And I want to start off by first having you ask yourself, what does trigger my anger in my marriage? Is it when my husband forgets to do something? Is it when he says an offhand critical comment? Is it that he comes home late from work, or that I'm stressed out about other things and I'm just used to using him as somewhat of a punching bag? Well, I know that for all of us wives, our triggers can look like a lot of different things, but I do believe that a majority of them fall into this category of unmet expectations. We have these expectations, or we have these standards, or this idea of what we wanted or most needed, and for some reason or other, it's when we wind up disappointed that these unmet expectations, that leads to frustration and anger and resentment and so on. Now, if you're tracking with me here, I want to challenge you to think for a second about what might be underneath those unmet expectations. My theory is that it's oftentimes a distrust of motives. There's a distrust of our husband's heart. You might be looking at the problem right in front of you and you'd be angry about that problem, and yet underneath the surface there's usually more going on. There's a thought or a set of thoughts that indicate a lack of trust. Thoughts like, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't see me, he doesn't understand me, he only cares about himself, he's lazy, he's selfish, he's apathetic. All these different thoughts can become a pattern we don't even realize we have, and yet are actually becoming the root of our anger. It's a distrust of our husband's motives, our husband's hearts. And this is where this next step of learning how to communicate with confidence comes in. Because communicating with confidence helps open up the pathway that allows your brain to start to correct and change some of these thoughts, even replace lies with truths and understanding toward your husband and your marriage, which eliminates the need for anger, eliminates the need to lash out and yell and punish. Now, I think there's a lot of different ways you can communicate with confidence, but I love teaching my clients specifically how to communicate with confidence by using questions with their husband. So examples of questions might be, can you help me understand why you did this? Or, hey, is there a reason for why you're talking to me in this way? Are you maybe stressed? Or, hey, I'm noticing that you're not engaged with the family right now. What's on your mind? What's going on? Or, hey, is there something we could have both done to help you remember to do that thing I asked you to do earlier? Now, I know that these questions might sound so trivial, but they're actually super powerful because they're giving our husbands an opportunity to rebuild trust, to replace some of the thoughts or the lies that we might be believing about them, to help us understand what are his true motives or reasons, and to help us see things in a new light that maybe doesn't require us to get upset or angry at all. Until you ask, until you seek out that deeper understanding, you never know what might be under the surface. And when it comes to breaking free from anger, anxiety, and distrust, you have to be willing to dig for what's under the surface. And using super simple questions like these is a really easy, low-pressure way to start doing that. Now, the reason why I even call this a method of communicating with confidence is because, in a nutshell, that's what you're doing. You're speaking from a place of confidence, from a place of security instead of insecurity. Because an insecure wife most likely would not be willing to ask these simple questions. An insecure wife would want to demand or sulk or fight for control, which just perpetuates tension and anger within the relationship. But when you are choosing to speak in this way instead, when you are willing to ask questions, to speak as though you already do trust and believe in your husband, even if you don't, even if you're faking it, what this is doing is it's allowing you to wear the clothes of someone whose default isn't anger. It's allowing you a chance to see that there's a better way. And over time, even though communicating in this way might feel unnatural at first, even though you might feel far from confident, over time it gets easier because you're able to see the fruit that comes from it. There was a time where it seemed like my husband and I were constantly bickering, and I was constantly getting angry because of the way he was behaving around the kids. He was on his phone more than I wanted. He wasn't super attentive on his days off from work, where you would think that this would be the ideal family time for the four of us. And it was wearing on me. My expectations were not being met, and this was upsetting me because of my distrust of him. I was thinking things like, he's selfish, he doesn't care, he doesn't appreciate this time we have together, he only thinks about himself. But here's what communicating with confidence did for us. Once I finally got fed up enough to where I was willing to try it, instead of just snapping at him to get off his phone or complaining about how he's not paying attention to the kids, I started asking more of these proactive, curious questions like, hey, is there a reason why you like to be on your phone, specifically while we're all trying to be together as a family? Or, hey, I've noticed that on the weekend you seem a little checked out. Have you noticed this? Do you know why that might be? Hey, it looks like the girls want your attention. Is there something we can all do together right now that would be fun for you and for them? And through asking these questions, I actually ended up learning so much about my husband, things that I honestly hadn't considered, like that he wanted to be on his phone scrolling through Reddit on the weekends because at work throughout the week, he doesn't have stimulating or entertaining conversations. On the weekends, he's also more tired. His fatigue catches up to him when he's just sitting at home with us in the living room, not doing anything. He's a doer. He wants to go on outings as a family or even just go outside in the backyard. It bothers him when we're hanging out indoors. He gets bored easily. He starts to check out mentally, even without meaning to. These were all things that I realized about him because I asked these proactive, curious questions. And then once I was able to learn these things about him, we then could come up with solutions together. Like, for example, maybe he needs to start his day off with some coffee. Maybe it would help for us to also have pre-scheduled plans of where we're going to go and what we're going to do as a family when he's home. We decided he might need to go to bed earlier the night before our weekend begins, even if it cuts into our date night, because it helps him have more energy for the next day, which he needs if he's going to be hanging around two toddlers with me all day. I mean, let's be honest, it's exhausting. So we were able to even discuss calmly what setting boundaries for his phone time might need to look like too. And all of these conversations were not heated, they were not tense, they were calm, they were proactive, they helped us move forward. And they were all initiated by my questions and my seeking, not by my nagging and yelling. Now, when I encourage my clients to do this in their own marriages, they're surprised by how quickly they're able to move the needle forward and how much more calmly they're able to handle stressful situations. Because up until being taught that they could use questions to gain control, all they've ever known is how to fight with anger for control. And it really is not until you experience otherwise that finally clicks. Your anger does not serve you, but being confident and being empowered does. Now, I've just given you an inside look into what communicating with confidence can do in your marriage, but I also want to hit on real quick how you can use this with your kids, because this works super well with children, toddlers from age 2.5 and up, once they have enough language to where they can respond to your questions and understand what you're asking them. Now, I'm sure that as a mom, you have had those moments where your patience has just worn thin. Maybe you have a 3-year-old who likes to ask for the same thing over and over again. I want a snack, and I have a snack. Or maybe your kid is not doing so well at following instructions, and you're having to repeat yourself numerous times. Go put on your shoes, don't make me tell you again. These are the moments in parenthood that really test us, aren't they? And they can bring all kinds of crud out of us. We feel like we're losing control, or we feel like we're a slave to our kids' demands, and it's no wonder that we resort to frustration and anger. It's no wonder that we find ourselves snapping and raising our voices and yelling. It's our response to these stressful triggers that we've got to grow out of, and can take a long time if we don't know how. So here's my thought on how to de-escalate these situations, how to keep us from even getting to that point of anger and snapping with our kids. We've got to communicate with confidence, but not just confidence in ourselves, but confidence in our children. We've got to learn how to take some of the pressure off of us as the parent to force obedience, and instead learn how to put more responsibility on our children, even our 2 and 3-year-olds, for their own obedience. Now, I'll give you an example of this. Let's go back to those scenarios I just painted. You have a kid who's asking for a snack over and over, and you're getting frustrated because you're repeating yourself over and over. No, it's not snack time. No, you just ate. No, don't ask me again. Here's an example of how to communicate with confidence in this moment, and it involves using a question. Hey, bud, what time is snack time? What time is snack time? If you can set the boundary beforehand, teach your kid over the course of a few days or weeks that snack time always happens when the big hand on the clock is at the 10, or when the timer goes off on mommy's phone, or during the late morning Netflix show. If you can train your kids to know these sorts of things, all of a sudden the ball is in their court. They now know the answer before they even ask. And so from now on, your job, when they do come up to you and say, Mommy, I want a snack, is it snack time yet? Your job is now to empower them to remember what they already know. Instead of having to constantly respond with no, 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 you now have this quick reply of, hey, what time is snack time? And watching them have to answer it themselves, watching them have to come to the conclusion on their own, I'm telling you, it is so satisfying because, again, now the pressure is off of you to force obedience, and now the responsibility is on them to own up to their own obedience. And you can use this technique for just about anything. If your 3-year-old is not listening and you're having to keep telling them to sit on the potty again and again, and they keep getting distracted, instead of resorting to saying the command louder and louder until you're eventually yelling, you can instead ask a question calmly and confidently that gets the result you want. A question like, hey, what did mommy ask you to do? Go sit on the potty. Okay, and what happens when you don't listen? I don't get to eat my fruit snacks. This is the kind of communication that really gets you out of that repetitive cycle that leads to anger and frustration. There is some initial training involved if you're doing this sort of call and response kind of communication, but I'm telling you, it can do wonders for changing your relationship with your kids, because you're no longer having to fight for control. You are now empowered as a mom who knows she is in control, and also is empowered to empower her children to take more ownership for their obedience and discipline as well. Empowered moms communicate with confidence, and I guess another word you can tack onto that is creativity. Empowered moms communicate with confidence and creativity. Really, what I'm sharing with you today is not some secretive, out there kind of technique. It's really just ideas on how to be a little more creative with how you speak and address the things that are bothering you. If you can get into this habit of finding more confident, creative ways to express your needs and wants, I do believe you will notice a huge difference in your attitude. And the more you affirm that this works in your everyday life, the more your brain will pick up on it and will be able to replace your anxious thoughts or the lies that you've had in your head for so long. Now, I know that we've covered a lot these past 3 days. I gave you a lot to think about, a lot of new strategies to try and next steps to take, but I do want to offer one last step, a bonus step, if you will, and it's to consider whether enrolling in my Mom Empowered coaching program may be the next step for you. I work specifically with Christian moms to help them gain the emotional wellness and confidence they most need to thrive. I specialize in helping women overcome anger and anxiety, but I also work with women on a variety of things, whether that's reaching their big goals of starting a business or losing weight or restoring their marriage. I like to help moms create a life that is better aligned with their values and dreams. I am a firm believer that the women who most enjoy being a mom are the women who feel the most empowered as a mom. And really, this is the driving force behind my Mom Empowered program. When you work with me one-on-one as your coach, together we will help you become a master of your thought life, break free from the anxiety and the anger and overwhelm that's holding you back from transformation, and then I will equip you with the tools and strategies for reaching your goals and cultivating stronger relationships and stepping into a place of thriving. As your coach, I will also offer you the accountability and the intensive real-time support that you most need so that you can take more massive action in your life and then experience more massive breakthrough. So if you are ready to learn more or take a next step with me, I want to invite you to visit my website at jessieheredia.com and apply for a free empowerment call so we can talk more and figure out whether my program might be the right fit for you. Again, I am so happy that you took the time to participate in this 3-day training. I hope and pray pray that it was encouraging and eye-opening and most of all empowering, so that you can better step into the immeasurably more God has for you and become the free, empowered mom you were created to be.